Can the Tigers flip not one, but two five-star offensive linemen? We've got the latest. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get great podcasts. Of course, on YouTube as well, so please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. We have our weekly visit with Shea Dixon from On 3 the Bengal Tiger to talk recruiting. So that's what this episode is, and if we're being perfectly honest, it comes at a great time. LSU in their bye week, it's a time for the LSU staff to recruit, get off campus while the team isn't practicing every single day. They're not preparing for an opponent. They can go visit prospects off campus. And also on Thursday and Friday night of this week, they can be on high school campuses watching high school football games and LSU commits and targets. So the LSU staff will disperse later this week without having a game to prepare for Thursday, Friday, and then, of course, play on Saturday so they can get out on the road and recruit. And it'll be interesting to see where they go, who they see. We'll have that full report for you next week, along with a visitor list for the South Carolina game. But where I want to start is a few potential flip targets, two offensive linemen, a running back, and then also a linebacker that LSU was pursuing who recently decommitted from his school, but LSU is no longer in the mix. We'll tell you why. That's all coming up here on this episode of Locked on LSU. So let's start with the offensive lineman, because this is very clearly the most gigantic Achilles heel on this LSU team. If you're an everydayer, you've heard our last several episodes since the Ole Miss game. You know where I stand on this firmly. For all the talk about Nussmeier, his decision-making, his health, Joe Sloan's play calling, all that stuff, it is all rooted. The genesis of all of it is in the LSU offensive line. The inability to run block, the inability to pass protect. It is dictating everything LSU does. It is causing Nussmeier to be under duress, hence making bad decisions. A year ago, LSU had one of the best pass blocking offensive lines in America. They kept Garrett Nussmeier upright. He had time to make throws, make good decisions, and ultimately that passing offense was one of the best in the country. Now, Garrett Nussmeier under duress, having to get rid of the ball quickly, the short passing game, the inability to run is making them imbalanced, all that sort of thing. So LSU is going to have to improve the offensive line. Now, what's interesting is that there's two five-star prospects that, as I'm told this week, LSU is still heavily pursuing. One is five-star Immanuel Iheanacho. Now, Iheanacho is listed at 6'7", 380. He's out of Baltimore, Maryland, Georgetown Preparatory School. He's currently committed to Oregon. It came down to LSU, Oregon, Penn State was in the mix as well. His home state of Maryland was there. But Immanuel Iheanacho took a visit to LSU, an unofficial visit, so came on his own dime, an unofficial visit to LSU for the Florida game. And by all accounts, had a fantastic time. And LSU has not let up in their pursuit of Immanuel Iheanacho. And consider right now, Tyree Adams, Weston Davis as your starting tackles have not necessarily been awesome this year. The only player on LSU's offensive line that really has been above average has been center Braylon Moore, and everything else has been a bit of a hodgepodge and a mess. So we saw Brian Kelly start both Will Campbell and Emory Jones as true freshmen. Carius Kearns started at Ole Miss as a true freshman after the injury to Weston Davis and may end up playing even more as the season goes along. So Brian Kelly can tell Iheanacho, you come in and win the job, he'll play a true freshman. The other is five-star Darius Gray. Now, Darius Gray is a five-star in the composite. He's listed as the number one interior offensive lineman in the country in the composite. Rivals has him as the number 2 interior offensive lineman. 24/7 has him as the number 1 interior offensive lineman. He is the number 31 overall player in the country, regardless of position. Among his finalists, he picked South Carolina, but LSU had a hat on the table and was widely thought to be the runner-up there for Darius Gray. So a 5-star tackle, a 5-star interior player. Both are currently committed to other schools. And LSU, as I was told this week, is still in heavy pursuit of both Iheanacho and Darius Gray. So I asked Shea Dixon from On3 the Bengal Tiger where things stand with those two guys.
I think so, yes, because I do believe that in a world where right now, NIL can be made equal or close to it with the aforementioned guys. So let's remove that from the equation for a minute, and geography, all of that. LSU's 4-1. And I have said this forever. High school kids do not, if I quizzed them all, they wouldn't know what LSU's like. If I got to the end of the season, they could not tell you if LSU was 10-2 or 9-3. Like, that's just not what they care. Like, they don't live and breathe it like we do.
Yeah.
They care about fit, now NIL's involved, all of that. But every one of these kids at LSU recruits is the best kid on their high school team usually. So they do care about playing early. And as you just noted, they took some transfer linemen that are on the back end of their careers. Are you going to sit here and tell me that anybody else on this O-line has a spot locked in? And even more so, are you going to tell me any backup that maybe isn't Darius Kern has a spot locked in? So for the first time in a real way, they can sell, hey, look, immediate playing time, because for 3 years you weren't, Matt Moscona, I promise you're our starting left tackle. When I'm sitting here looking at Will Campbell and Emory Jones starting as true freshmen, knowing they've got 3 years ahead of them, that's a little tough to do, to convince me of. I don't think they'll have that problem this offseason. So I don't know what the likelihood is, but realistic, absolutely.
Do you think they're more likely to address offensive line again in the high school recruiting with Gray, Iheanacho, or in the portal like you talked about with linebacker?
I think if you could get Gray and Iheanacho, who are guys viewed in a very similar, let me put it best to you. Those two would be viewed in a similar way that you would have viewed Darius Kern. They have not rushed to put Darius Kern on the field. So that at all times, even with the best, and we saw Will Campbell and Emory Jones had to take some lumps, right? I mean, and they were elite. They were always going to be good. So you're going to have to take some time with them, but they're really good. Like, the floor is so high there. If you can get your paws on a couple of guys that are like Braylon Moore, who come in here with 100 and something, 1,000 snaps and 30 something starts, and you're like, yeah, this guy's legit. Then that if it comes down to we have to have one or the other where we're allocating our rev share money, I'm going to guess you're going to choose the guy who's got a lot more experience, because yes, you're always building for the future, but you're in win now mode right now, and certainly in year 4 of the Kelly era. So every time that I kind of think about things like that, Matt, I would say if it has to be one or the other, I'm going to guess that they would lean towards the portal.
One of the real interesting questions is if LSU in this coming off season will be in win now mode. Are they in perpetual win now mode, or with Nussmeier gone and this great transfer portal class gone, will they be looking to build for the future? One other thing to consider is I know LSU would, for Iheanacho, be going up against Oregon, and the thought being, well, Oregon has Phil Knight money. They have a blank checkbook. You can't outspend them. I would remind you that LSU beat out Oregon for Deuce Geralds, the defensive lineman from Georgia, who's from Baton Rouge. Dad was from Scotlandville. And I had a conversation with an LSU staff member who told me point blank, listen, they can't beat Oregon, can't go head to head with Oregon for every player and win. But they can select the ones that they really prioritize and be just as competitive financially. And I think the best way that I could explain this is, I don't know if you're a fan of the show Shark Tank. I'm kind of business minded, so I love that show. But it's like that panel of sharks are all super wealthy people. Damon John and Robert Herjavec and Lori Grenier and Barbara Corcoran. I mean, all these people were worth hundreds of millions of dollars, like extremely wealthy people. But Mark Cuban's on the panel, and he's a billionaire. And if Mark Cuban wants to outbid them for something, he will. But there are going to be instances where they might be able to be more competitive because they're willing to be for a certain product. Same with LSU. LSU ain't poor. I mean, they're like all the other super wealthy elite on that panel, and they just have to pick their spots. It'll be interesting to see if Iheanacho is one of those where they decide to be just as financially committed as Oregon to get Iheanacho to Baton Rouge. Just think about a year ago with Jakeem Stewart. LSU had a number they weren't going to go past. So Jakeem Stewart ended up at Southern Cal. LSU was just not willing to give him $2 million a year. They stopped around 1.2 and were like, that's all we're going. Okay, you knew your limitations. We'll see what that is for Iheanacho. But don't give up because LSU hasn't given up recruiting those two. Well, Tigers clearly need help not only on the offensive line, but at running back as well. They have a target in mind. We'll tell you about it next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. See, Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Plus pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, so Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. With all-wheel drive standard and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. We're also brought to you by Monarch Money. You know, most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. See, Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes. You can see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally, feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege. Well, it's pretty clear on Saturday when LSU lost to Ole Miss without Caden Durham that the confidence in the running back room was virtually nil. In the first half, LSU ran the ball just 9 times, and only 2 of those rushing attempts went to running backs. One of them, Juwan Johnson, the other, Caleb Jackson. Keep in mind, 5-star running back Harlem Berry didn't have a touch in the first half. Now, he got some opportunity in the second half and performed admirably. But when you look at the running back room, that's a spot where LSU clearly is thin on numbers and has had to do some manipulating. You've got Caden Durham, but outside of that, Harlem Berry coming in as a 5-star, Caleb Jackson coming back as a junior who hasn't ever really emerged. You moved Juwan Johnson from defensive back to quarterback to running back, and you had JT Lindsey on the roster as well, but a legal entanglement now has him away from the football team. So you have a giant question at running back, both your depth and your ability there. And KJ Edwards is a guy that LSU has had in their crosshairs. Now, LSU was a finalist for KJ Edwards before ultimately he ended up committing to Texas A&M. But he's out of Carthage in Texas. He's 5'10", 190. In the consensus, he's a 4-star, the number 56 overall player in the country, the 4th best running back in America, and has offers from everybody. Texas, Texas A&M, SMU, Baylor, Southern Cal, Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Alabama, Michigan, Miami, Ole Miss, Texas Tech. You get the picture. Everybody has offered KJ Edwards. And he's currently committed to Texas A&M. But A&M has a loaded running back room right now And LSU has tons of opportunity at running back. And I was told earlier this week that LSU is still in hot pursuit of KJ Edwards, and Shea Dixon gave us the latest.
That's the other, just like the alignment, where you're pitching, hey, you can come in and play a lot. And we've seen it. They rotate running backs, even if they weren't trying to get creative because they had to, with Juwan Johnson, Xavier Thomas, all these guys. Like Caden Durham will be a junior. We haven't even seen him pop this year. Harlan Berry, we know, is a great player, but he's a freshman. And there's room for others to have carries. So they've made KJ Edwards their only priority in running back targets. So we'll see if that pitch is enough. But that is one where I was surprised they didn't get a portal guy a year ago. So this time around, I'd be floored if it wasn't one portal guy, if not two, because I also think they want that guy, Matt. And I don't know if this moves the meter for you, but guys like Noah Cain, inside the 10-yard line, they were scoring with him, right? Like he can get you 3 or 4 yards. So I'd like to see them add a guy who they know can go pick them up yards in between the tackles. You got Harlan Berry, you got Durham, and then potentially add someone who's got elite speed and a little bit of it all, which is what KJ Edwards is, or maybe someone in the portal.
A running back room in 2026 with a junior in Caden Durham, a sophomore in Harlan Berry, a freshman potentially in KJ Edwards, and then a veteran portal guy. That would look really good. Now, I don't know what the future holds for Caleb Jackson here in his junior year. Very much respect his commitment to the program, to trying to better himself. It just hasn't ever worked for him, and other guys are getting those opportunities. So could you see a world where after this year, for his senior season, Caleb Jackson transfers? I could. And there's still the ambiguity over what's going to happen with JT Lindsay and his legal situation. So Shay's right. You've got to buoy your numbers in the running back room, and in particular, veteran players, because the LSU went to Ole Miss this past weekend without a guy that had ever made a start at running back and desperately needed some experience they felt that they could count on the road, because very clearly in the first half, they didn't. So a portal guy would make a ton of sense for LSU, but KJ Edwards would be a big get for a lot of reasons. Of course, you need running backs, but also you would be flipping him from Texas A&M. And like we always say, if LSU misses on a prospect, you want to miss on someone from to school out of state. Keem Stewart, who we just mentioned, left the defensive lineman, left New Orleans, didn't pick LSU. He's at Southern Cal. Well, fine. You're never going to play. You're never going to see him. So, okay, it stinks that you didn't get him, but he's out of sight, out of mind. So the opposite is also true. If you're able to flip a guy from a place like Texas A&M, remember, LSU flipped guys like Cohen Eccles and Weston Davis from Texas A&M a cycle ago. And, it benefits your program and similarly weakens theirs. So you would love it if it would work out that way. But 3 names to keep an eye on as possible flips that LSU is still pursuing heavily: offensive lineman Immanuel Iheanacho and Darius Gray, and running back KJ Edwards. And there's one other prospect that we have to talk about, because LSU was hot and heavy after a linebacker a few months ago who ultimately picked Arkansas. Well, you probably know that Sam Pittman, the Arkansas head coach, got fired. And that prospect is now back on the market. So is LSU interested? We'll give you the latest next on Locked on LSU, your team every day. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, I've tried player props, even followed live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Again, visit them online at FanDuel.com. And we're also brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood, the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. So if there's a local spot in your neighborhood that's been the heart of your community for years, the place where you walk in and everyone knows your name, chances are they run on Square. You see, Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. One more time, that's square.com/go/lockedoncollege. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. We'll see you in the neighborhood. So a few months back, LSU was heavily after linebacker J.J. Bush out of the state of Alabama. 6'3", 205. In the composite, he's a 4-star, ranked number 307 nationally and the 20th best linebacker. Now, that may not in and of itself be a very impressive rating, but like we always say, it's not just what your star rating or your ranking is, it's who's offered. And he's got some big offers. He's committed to Arkansas, Missouri, Miami, LSU, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Boston College, Virginia. But most importantly is that Blake Baker identified J.J. Bush as the prospect he wanted. And remember, Blake Baker is LSU's linebackers coach. So when your defensive coordinator, who is your linebackers coach, identifies a player, and that's the only guy at that position that he's going after, you want him, and you want him badly. Well, J.J. Bush ultimately committed to Arkansas. Sam Pittman now has been fired. Defensive coordinator Travis Williams, has also been fired now by new head coach Bobby Petrino, interim head coach Bobby Petrino, oddly enough. And so J.J. Bush is, again, on the market. He's no longer committed to Arkansas. So I asked Shay if LSU was back in the mix there.
Yeah, he's from Alabama at Theodore, and he was all up to commit to LSU, and we had the stories ready. And then he said, look, I'm committing to Arkansas, committed there, and now with Sam Pittman's firing, he's opened things up, and he had been on a visit earlier this year. But I would not expect him to end up at LSU, and it's more so because LSU's not pressing for him like they were in the spring. I think that between just kind of a slower start to his senior year, but more so, fortunate or not, they've gotten to see their backups at linebacker now in live action. And they've got a lot of young kids who aren't that bad, right? That prove that they could handle their own. And Baker is your linebackers coach. So if you love him as DC, then you hope that he can develop your linebackers. And the reality becomes that you're losing Whit Weeks, likely. You're losing Harold Perkins, likely. West Weeks is at the end of his career. So the three guys beyond Devon Keys who have gotten the most snaps for you, in all likelihood, are not on this roster next year. Translation portal. So I don't look at it right now. They've got some edge rushers committed. I don't think that they consider high school linebacker to be of the utmost priority given. They've got a bunch of young linebackers on the team. What they need is some veteran guys on this team for next year, given that the guys they're leaning on most right now beyond Devon Keys won't be here. So I would not be shocked at all if they go for more than one linebacker in the portal, just given they're going to need some guys who've played, significant snaps, again, beyond Keys.
You can look at positions where that makes sense from a year ago. Look at the positions where LSU added multiple guys. Offensive line, they added 2 starters. Safety, they added 2 starters. Obviously at receiver, they added Berrien Brown, Nick Anderson. At tight end, they went and added 2 players at tight end. So linebacker very well could match that in this portal cycle, according to Shea. It's interesting, but when you look at it, I think it makes sense. Listen, West Weeks and Harold Perkins are both going to be out of eligibility, so we know they're gone. Witt's going to have a decision to make, right? I mean, he's a fantastic player. He absolutely could leave after this season as a draft-eligible guy, be a high draft pick and go make money, or he could come back to LSU for his senior season and maybe rev share NIL and the opportunity to play another year at LSU, play with his younger brother. Maybe that keeps him around. But if you just assume West, Witt, and Harold Perkins are all gone, that leaves you with some really talented young guys, but still young guys. Devon Keys has got a ton of playing time this year. We've seen Tylen Singleton take some more reps, and then we've seen Zach Weeks in a limited role as well. Keelan Moses was part of this most recent signing class. So were C.J. Ross and Jim Coyley as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 6 young linebackers who are all very talented players. And look, I know as you look at snap counts at linebacker, Ross has played 14 snaps. CJ Jim Coyley has played 11. I forgot about Jaden Breaker as well. Jaden Breaker's played 7 snaps. Zach Weeks has played 30 snaps. Singleton 29. Devon Keys 187. So you've got a big drop off after Keys, but you do have talented young guys, and you feel really good about their growth and development. You're just going to have to bridge that gap in the same way you did at defensive end. That's maybe a better example where you had Gabe Relaford and you got some young talent, but you went and added 3 guys to bring some experience to that room immediately. Very likely what LSU will do next year as well. Of course, it is the open date for LSU. So a lot of our normal shows here throughout the week are a little disrupted, but we're glad that you're aboard with us here, and we're not going anywhere. Of course, it's Locked on LSU. It's your team every day, so we'll keep producing content for you every single day here. And if there's a topic that in this open date week that you'd like me to discuss, I got a lot of runway to do it, so always feel free to drop a comment and let me know. Or you can always hit me up on Twitter as well. It's at Matt Moscona, Moscona. Spell it correctly. The vowels always get people. At Matt Moscona on Twitter. If there's follow me there, and if there's a comment or a topic you'd like for me to discuss, hit me up there. I'd be happy to talk about it. Brian Kelly is on the SEC Coaches Teleconference Wednesday morning, and he is scheduled to meet with reporters on Thursday evening for his normal Thursday press conference as well, but no player availability this week. So a little bit disrupted as the guys get to kick their feet up, take a little break for the bye week, get healthy before they're back at it preparing for South Carolina. So that's just about going to do it for us here. It's another big moment, by the way, for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. Okay, that's going to do it for us here. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you right here every single day for Locked On LSU. It's your team every day.